What's going on YouTube? Wasted here, and today's tutorial is going to be over 5 mixdown secrets that are going to absolutely change and help your game in bass music. These are something that I've just learned over time that really, I feel like, helped my mixdowns substantially, and that's why I'm going to tell you guys about them, because it helped me a lot. So let's get into the track. So we're actually in an unreleased project of mine that will be coming out probably next month. And the first thing is there's sub levels and balancing. First off, we always know sub is in mono, and if you don't, always put your sub in mono. And then B, how loud it needs to be. If you don't have good speakers or headphones, you're probably trying to make up for it, what you don't hear even though it's there. You're pushing it way too hard. Then when it goes to your master and all that stuff, you're going to notice that your ending WAV file and your ending master is not as loud as other tracks. So for Ableton users, we all know Spectrum, right? I want you to save a new Spectrum. I call it a better Spectrum, but what you want to do is turn your block up to 16384. Your refresh can stay the same, but if you have a good CPU, you can turn it down a little bit. I turn it down to 40. Click off this auto, put this top one up to 40, bottom one up to 140. Now you're going to see this grid where before, if you look, you couldn't really see 0 up here. You can just see -12, which, I mean, I guess if you mix down really quietly, better Spectrum here is what I like to use, and this way I can actually see what the sub is. So let's see here. I'm going to show you what Spectrum originally looks like. So we're in Spectrum here, and we'll see. All I can see is that it's a very harmonic sub, and that's hidden above -6, but not much more. I really don't know much, and that's why I don't like the default Spectrum. I want to show you the better Spectrum. And if you're not an Ableton person, don't worry. I'll show you the span as well. So better Spectrum, here's 0. And you can see above. So I put in here. Okay, now I can see it's hitting above -6 a little bit, which is where your sub should be. Go slap an EQ8 like how I have it, but a better Spectrum, and then check out their drops. Their sub levels are all going to be in the same region. Now, depending on what scale it is, it's going to be up and down a little bit. But other than that, what am I trying to say? Long story short, your sub should be hitting right just above -6. And as you can see, it's sitting right above -6. It's perfectly mixed. So even if you don't have good speakers or headphones, get your sub like this in your drop, mix it, leave it alone. You know, just follow your basses now. If you're doing a separate sub, you're good to go. For a non-Ableton user, check out Span real quick. Span is a free to download plugin. So I'm going to show you it real quick. Where are we hitting on this meter? So you can see here, as a good reference, we're hitting right around -30, where you want to hit with Span. And like I said, it's a free download. You can go grab it. I would use this. Just throw it on your track, whatever DAW you're in, and boom. Now you have the perfect reference. Tip number 2. You're going to actually go to my bass group here. The biggest thing to take away is to cut at 100. And if you want to be extra careful, throw a couple duplications on that. Really cut that low end. Say nah, no low end allowed. Because if you're doing a separate sub, you don't want any bleed from anything else, because when you go into your master, if you're getting bleed from your sub basses, it's going to make that very, very low end very hard to mix, and you're running into problems. So you'll see in my basses, and this is an absolute bluster of a project, so I'm sorry, but we'll go to here. You'll always see me cut and cut. You're cutting all your low end out of your basses. Probably heard this before. Cut at 100. If you want to be extra safe, you can cut at 115. And as long as your sub is rightfully mixed, -6 in this better Spectrum, remember that? You're gonna be okay. So tip number 2 is make sure you cut that low end out. So during the drop, you can even see there's a little bit of bleed, so I could easily double up on this and be okay with it. Like, I want 0 low end from these guys because I have this sub. You know, in context, I'll let you kind of hear how the sub in it goes. So you can hear. You don't have to worry about the low end. The sub's got you there. So Tip number 2 is make sure you cut anything below 100 hertz out of your basses. Tip number 3 is kind of going to go off the first one, but it's going to be your levels in your mix. So in EDM and bass music, the drums are your loudest thing. Here, my drop drums, that they're going to hit at 0. Yeah. Speaking at 0 there, I put a full parallel because why not? And then I put 2 soft clips on because I like to push a little more because I like gritty drums. You don't have to, but always put some type of soft clip on them, I would say, if you're going to push them. Even in here, I have a transient shaper just to make sure they're punchy when they hit, because that's what we want the drums for. Kick snare, the kick and clap, whatever you want to call it. Make sure they're punchy. But your drums should be hitting absolute 0. Next down is going to be your main element, your basses, right? So my basses are my second loudest thing, and you can see here. They're pretty close to hitting 0, which is a little hot, not gonna lie. But normally I like them around -1, -2. That is not an in-stone thing. It's just normally where I like it, since I have a very mid-heavy style. First should be your drums hitting 0. Next should be your basses, fairly close, you know, -1, -3, I would say. And make sure the sidechain right. 3 is going to be your sub, -6, and then everything else around that is going to be quiet, like my effects in the back. Like you're not, that's not going to take any attention away from my main elements. Even my percussion, right? It's not going to take anything away. So make sure that your kick and snare, kick, clap are the loudest at 0. Your basses are second, -1 to 3, and third is your sub around -6. From there on, you kind of fill out the spectrum otherwise, and how you please. Just I would make sure the main elements all have their space within the mix and are all at a good level. Number 4 is going to be build up automation. Okay, you're having a lot of noises, build tension. You keep everything going at the same rate and keep adding stuff in, adding elements, it's going to be louder, 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 louder. There's so many elements going on in build up sometimes that it can actually be louder than your drop, and you don't want that because then it takes away from the release of the tension. Don't take care of that right, your build up's loud, your drop is quieter, and it's unsatisfying. So 2 things you want to do. First, automation. Automating things. You'll even see like auto filter and stuff going here. Clap, auto filter, filtered in. This. There's tons of automations in a drop, but the biggest thing I want to talk about is once you find a good happy place with build up and all that, make sure there's not a ton of high end either, because all these drums and perks are going to build up a ton of high end, so make sure you tame that. What I like to do is on a master, if you're going to automate anything on your master chain, make sure it is before your final compression or something like that, which I use ozone for, because if you do it after, it messes with your file, it looks bad, and people see you as unprofessional. So I have gain going down. I have it going from, I have like 1.5 dB going down. You're not going to notice it. And then my width is going from 100% to 70%. So I'm taking 25% of the width out. Doesn't mean much. It's just pulling in a little bit. It makes it a little bit quieter, even though it's getting louder. So it's still, you're not going to notice the difference really, but it really makes your drop sound way open. Same thing with the auto filter here, right? I have an auto filter coming in right here. I'm going to pull down the high end. So play this with, and then I'll turn off the auto filter, and you'll hear a lot more higher end. Okay. Now let's turn that off, and you'll kind of hear how it builds up a little more. So you can definitely tell that the high end builds up a lot more. These are just small adjustments, right? You've already done everything in your mix and all that stuff. So the last and final tip that I think will really help you guys overall is going to be using actually placing in marks to help you guide your track. So you want to, I use, as you can see, all these markers. They help me a lot. And as you guys know, 8 bars of music. So especially whenever I'm working on drop, I'll even put like drop 8 bar, so I know like, all right, I probably want some filler here. And then either a B segment, or I'm changing the, or I'm copy and pasting this and then changing it somehow, or I'm gonna write something different, right? So like, I'll play my first 8 bar of this drop for you guys. Definitely tell the turnaround moment. Alright, and tip number 5 is going to be always remind your audience you're in the same track. A lot of times when we're DJing, we're building up and we're switching it over, right? But you want to always remind them they're in the same song. So if you have some crazy drop, it's cool, but you want to tie it in, right? So there's a vocal in my song, turn the F up, right? And that goes into the build up. And during the drop, I want to remind them, hey, we're still in this song. So at the end of my 8 bar, 7th to 8th, or 8 to 9, however you want to say it, I bring back in the lyric with some sense that I had previously in the song to remind them. Listeners vibe with this very well subconsciously, and it works very well to tie it in. So here's this vocal right here. Come the fuck up. Hear that, and then during the drop, you hear you're gonna come up across the same thing, just pitched up with some synths. So there it is, familiarity. We have that vocal just pitched up to fit a little more, to stick out, since that I used earlier, and it fits really well. It reminds them, hey, I'm still in this song, and we're going to part B. Now, as producers, we know that, but as a listener, it's like, okay, there's more to, like, a little break in the drop, and we're back into the stuff for bass music, right? Same thing happens in my drop 2. Ready? It's gonna happen again. Pitch down a little bit different, but still reminding them. Now, I'm not saying you have to use that every time, but I'm just saying use elements from your, to make sure it's present somewhere in a drop to remind them the song is cohesive. It's not just, hey, I made this intro and build up one session, I'm gonna drag this drop from, paste it together, call it good. You want it to be adhesive. I hope this video helped you guys today. If it did, consider hitting that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button if you want more tutorials. If you have ideas for videos, please let me know down in the comments below. What you liked, disliked is also encouraged below, so I can help grow to my audience. Other than that, I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.